Listen, I'll hop around on it just to get a feel for how, where the energy is with the audience. I wanted to start with our government. And this is probably the lecture that's going to get me in trouble, okay? I've been being watched since 1996. My phones have been tapped. Nobody's been bothering me too much, just monitoring. That's because I've been taking the spiritual end of things. And they figure, oh, just one of those new agers, nobody really listens to them, so they're not dangerous. They don't have that much information. They already know I have information. But interestingly, I haven't been speaking about the information the government doesn't want people to know about. This is going to be the first time I reveal some of this stuff. I haven't revealed it in New York yet, but that's due in December, because I have a big workshop planned there for December. We're going into a new millennium here, and it's about time we had a clue as to what's going on. Because we have been living under a lie. Not only since the 1930s, way back from the beginning of the seeding of our race here. For 200,000 years, certain things, certain factors were control factors in our evolution that were not intended to be a natural part of our evolution. We have been purposely made to be focused in a three-dimensional reality system, unaware of other dimensional systems. This has been done through repression of our DNA. We have DNA potentials that our scientists don't even understand yet. But there are certain beings that have visited here for millions of years that are very well aware of our DNA capacity. And that's why they've tried to repress it and suppress it. Because we have the ability to evolve beyond what they themselves consider themselves godlike beings. Well, we have the ability to evolve into such things. We have something in our DNA still. It was a gift that was given to us millions of years ago when we were first created as a species. It's called the silicate matrix. It's a 12-strand DNA code. It's in the morphogenetic template, the electromagnetic light-sound template that our DNA and our bodies are built on. It has been unplugged and not operational for over 200,000 years. We look at our history, and what we've been taught in school has so little to do with the reality of what history truly is. We have the Darwinian concept, and there's the concepts of, we were fish and we developed flippers and then we came out of the water. And all of these really interesting concepts because we have certain things in common with certain animal species. There are reasons for that because we were crossed with them at certain times and they were crossed with us, but that didn't mean we started there. We didn't. Our race was created 560 million years ago in literally a different dimensional field than what we're in right now, a higher dimensional field. We were an immortal race. Our bodies didn't decay and die like they do now. The silicate matrix gene code is a dormant potential within every person's body. Some people have more of it than others, and they're the ones that ETs want. When we have intruder ETs coming in here to bother people right now, they go for a couple of different things. One are called stellar substrand matrices in DNA. This is not in the books yet. This is new material that's only been recently introduced in New York City. The stellar substrand matrices are extraterrestrial coding that appear in certain human gene codes. It allows them certain potentials to be taken through interdimensional portals without exploding, for instance. Because if you take certain coding, genetic coding, through a stargate, it will go into spontaneous combustion because it cannot expand on the morphogenetic level. Other gene codes are able to activate dormant coding and expand to hold the frequencies of the stargates. So when you're an invading ET race trying to covertly take over a planet, you want to create hybrids and you want them to have the highest coding possible. So they've been trying to trace family lines, trace them to find the ones that have the highest contents of the silicate matrix within the gene codes. Not just for hybridization, but because right now, because of the time period, we're back to that, stellar activation cycle, the people that have silicate matrix, more of it in the gene code, will begin to have spontaneous DNA activation because of the new frequencies that are going to be coming through the solar light spectrum. If that DNA activates, they become multi-dimensional people. They become able to see fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional frequency bands, where our little manipulators like to play games. As long as we only see 3 dimensions, they can do anything they want from the fourth or anything higher. If our silicate matrix begins to activate in our gene code, which it will, as these vortices, 7 sealed on the planet, progressively open between now and 2012, we're going to be a real problem for any force that wants to control this place, because we're going to get wise really fast. They want to try to stop the activation of the silicate matrix. We're in a time period, it's so much like science fiction, it's hard to even speak about it because we've been so conditioned to science fiction that we can't deal with science fact, most of us. We can't deal with, on a real rational level, there's this big denial thing that happens, even with the most wanting to believe of us. If you will hit a level, you go, I can't deal with this. I have to go back to my job. I have to go see what's on TV tonight. I just have to ground myself and become just normal, just part of the program, like everybody else. Because when you start to see beyond the veils of illusion that we've been living here, you start to realize the manipulation that's taking place here. Part of the manipulation is ET manipulation, always has been. We don't know about them. Why? Because they didn't want us to, that's why. They didn't want us to know where they were or how to access them or to find out that we were being manipulated, because then they could manipulate us without any problem. So what we have to deal with in the next 10-year period, primarily, is not just ETs, it's our own governments. Our government, the United States government, became aware of the ET issue in the 1930s, not the 40s. They already had contact in the 30s. It was before Roswell, before any of that. There were treaties made between certain groups within the government. They wanted the ET technology. They were in the middle of wartime. They wanted as much advantage as they could. So treaties were made, and technology was exchanged, and we conveniently won the war. It wasn't by our own hand. There were technologies that allowed us to have the biggest and baddest weapons on the planet at the time. Unfortunately, it wasn't like you read in the history books. It wasn't solely the genius of our human minds creating wonderful war machines. We had a little help figuring it out. They came from the Zeta Reticuli. They're from the Orion star system primarily. That's where they originated, but they've also spread out into other systems, and they're interdimensional beings. They came here because they have an interest in what happens on planet Earth. They came here because they know about time cycles, and they know about stargates, and they know that ours was going to open, and they knew that would fire our DNA. That was going to cause a problem for certain control factors they have in 2 places. One is in a time space that's a little bit ahead of ours in time, where they are in control of human populations. And 2 is in something called parallel Earth. I don't deal too much with parallel Earth in the books yet because we have enough to deal with our own, but they're intimately connected. Basically, parallel Earth runs a bit ahead of us in time, and we are very, very connected with everything there. What manifests there will eventually manifest itself here, unless there's something done to change what's called a time vector. So we're going into a situation where we're dealing with parallel Earths, we're dealing with stellar activation cycles, we're dealing with ETs that most people don't know or acknowledge exist. We're dealing with so many things crashing in on us all at once, and so little time to learn what it means, where the pieces fit, and what to do, that it can be very intimidating. But it doesn't have to be. That's why I was given the information that I was given. If we can get out to as many people as possible knowledge of Keylontic morphogenetic science, knowledge that you have a silicate matrix and you can do things consciously to activate it, which means you can begin to bring in higher levels of your own consciousness, which will set up protective bioenergetic energy fields, electromagnetism, in your fields that will block some of their electromagnetic pulse technologies. There are things we can do about what's happening. First, I'll tell you a little bit about what exactly is happening. Well, we have government suppression of high-tech data. Our government likes to tell us, wow, we learned to clone a sheep. I hate to tell you, they learned to clone more than sheep. And they've been doing it for about 15 years. They've had a lot of messes, too, in the process. Cloning's just a little thing they've been keeping away from us.